Pokebabs! Hello everyone, welcome to Pokebabs. Hope you're having a great day today. Today we are looking at round 5 of the June Pokebeach tournament where I am playing my M-Manectric Ho-Oh deck against Marcus 503. He's playing a Fighting and Colorless deck. So, should be interesting. I'm not 100% sure what that would be just from the typing, but I think the good thing and the thing we have to keep in mind is that while the Manectric is going to be weak to fighting, the Ho-Oh is resistant, as is the Zapdos. Unfortunately, though, it looks like we are starting with a Manectric start because we obviously don't want to choose Hoopa. So I think we're going to go with that Manectric start. And we also are going second. We can see our opponent is playing Gabite, so that means they're playing Garchomp deck. And they've got a Max's in there too, which is kind of interesting. So this deck is kind of an interesting matchup. The thing that can be difficult to deal with, besides that the Manectrics are obviously weak, the thing that can be difficult to deal with is that if they have focus sashes, we can't knock them out in one hit unless we hit them on the bench with damage first, which or we have to hit them twice, which hitting them on the bench isn't that odd because we've got Overrun and we've got the Elemental Feather, but it can make math difficult sometimes. So we just see they start with a Shaman and retreat into the Gibble. No supporter played, which is kind of interesting. It could be because they have the turn 2 Garchomp in hand. If they had a Karina, I would think that they would still play it though, and just make sure to discard or to grab another Gibble, and then maybe a VS Seeker. That way they could guarantee that the next turn they can VS Seeker for a Karina and do it all over again. So kind of surprising that my opponent decides to not play anything. I'm hoping that's just because they don't have anything that they can play. So we're gonna grab we're gonna use Skyla. We're gonna grab an Ultra Ball. Very typical setup for this deck. Now we do have the Hoopa in hand, so I think that we're probably just going to grab one of our non-EXs. Maybe the Zapdos I think would be good because, like I said, that fighting resistance. So we're going to go with the Zapdos. That way we can grab all of our EXs with the Hoopa. And we'll have the board pretty much set up where we want it to be. And so I'm going to play down the Hoopa. Use that Scoundrel Ring ability to search in our deck for up to 3 EX Pokemon. And we're going to grab definitely the Ho and the Shaman. I think that's going to be it. We don't really want to put down more Manectric just because they're so easy for my opponent to knock out. Even the Shaman's pretty easy to knock out, but we might pick it up with an AZ or a Sky if we need to Sky Return. And we're going to attach to the Ho-Oh EX. Really would love to get off an Elemental Feather. We could have attached to the Zapdos and tried to go for the Raging Thunder. The Elemental Feather would be much better just because we wouldn't have to put damage down, and also because since we had the energy in hand, we didn't have a lightning in hand, so it just seemed better to go for the Ho-Oh. If nothing else, we can set ourselves up to next turn Mega Evolve, and then Mega Evolve, and then retreat into the Ho-Oh if we are able to attack with it. So we're going to play an Ultra Ball, discarding a Lightning. And we're going to grab a Shaman. We're going to set up again. Really want to get those Max Elixirs turn 1. Really want to get any tools we can get. So there's our second Max Elixir. The Fire and the Water. We'll take the Water. We do have a Water in hand, but the chance of us hitting a Lightning next turn is pretty high. And actually, I'm going to opt not to put down the Fighting Fairy Belt, and that's because the Garchomp decks play Karina. A lot of times they're going to also be playing at least one copy of Megaphone, probably just one, and so and maybe even Puzzle of Time. So we do see the rare candy into the Garchomp. They didn't even need to use a Karina, and then a Bridget, which wonder if they didn't have it last turn, it would make sense. But if they did have it, I think they would have wanted to play it last turn. And so I'm gonna play the Bridget. They could either get 3 non-EXs or 1 EX and put them onto their field. Guessing they're gonna grab 3 non-EXs. And so we've got some good energy in the discard, and if we can get a M-Manectric out and retreat into the Ho-Oh and attack next turn, that'd be great, especially since we don't see a Focus Sash, which is huge. They aren't able to get another energy either, so they can't use Bite Off to take a knockout. And looks like we're going to survive the turn, even with that fighting weakness. It doesn't really matter what we discard, because pretty sure we're just going to go for the Sycamore. But just kind of trying to make sure I'm making the right move. I'm going to grab that M-Manectric to ensure the free retreat. And if we get a rough seas, we might even be able to avoid another knockout, or we could slowly get the damage off of the M-Manectric. And we actually miss the lightning energy, which is a huge deal, but see if we can dig any deeper. We get a max elixir. This could get us the lightning energy we need. Actually going to play that before the battle compressor. We get a water energy, which is not what we needed. So could put the water energy on the active. Probably better to put it elsewhere. Yep, we're going to put it on the Zapdos. Or not the active, but on the Ho-Oh. But probably better to put it on the Zapdos. And we're just going to retreat into something that So my opponent could knock out the Hoopa, but we don't really want it on the field anyway. So we're just going to retreat into the Hoopa, and if they don't knock it out, we can use the AZ next turn. And if it's necessary, maybe we'll be able to get a switch. So really just hoping to get that lightning energy as soon as we can. We do see that Megaphone coming down. And and off that Bridget, it looks like they got the 2 Givels and a Carbink. The Carbink could present us a little bit of an issue. We do have the Hex Maniac, like you can see in hand. So our EXs could knock out the Carbink, but there's also that Zapdos. And the Carbink Break, I believe, has 110 HP, so any of our Pokemon can knock it out once they're really powered up. We top deck a M-Manectric Spirit Link, which was not what we needed at all. I think we're just going to put it down in the Mega Manectric, just either to bait another Megaphone, and mostly just to make sure that we don't get head-ringered. And we're just going to Sycamore. The rest of the hand just not that helpful. Here we're hoping to grab that switch, and we get it right off that first Trainer's Mail, which is awesome. So we're going to be able to attach that lightning energy, use our switch, go into Ho, and we'll play the... we're going to actually make sure we Battle Compressor first. And if there's anything we want to thin out of our deck, maybe the tech supporters. We see the only energy left is the fire energy. And we've actually dug through a lot of our deck in 2 turns. We're only down to 12 cards, and we'll soon be less than that. So the Zerosek would make sense. Could get rid of yeah, we're just going to get rid of our Manectric and Mega Manectric line. Really just don't even want them in the deck and don't want to draw into them. They're not going to be useful. We got the Trainer's Mail. We're going to grab the Max Elixir. We know that there's only the 1 energy left in the deck. But it doesn't hurt to get down more energy if we can. So might be able to put it, probably would put it on something that we might have to retreat out of. And unfortunately we whiffed the Max Elixir. So we're just going to go for that Elemental Feather. We're going to take a knockout on the active, and we're just going to put damage on one of the Gibbles. Doesn't really matter which Pokemon. I mean, we can't put it on the Carbink because of the ability. And putting it on the Shaman, as I've explained before, is not that useful because anything we have will knock out the Shaman. So, unless it has a Fairy Belt. So we're just gonna go for go after one of the Gibbles. And now our opponent has brought up the Carbink, which, like I said, could present a little bit of an issue. If we get a VS Seeker, we can Hex Maniac. But we see they do play that Team Flare Grunt, which does make things awkward. We don't have any grass energy in hand, so we are not able to attack. And now the question is, what do we want to power up? We can either power up a M-Manectric or the Zapdos. And since we have to go through the card bank one way or another, I think powering up the Zapdos makes the most sense. Although, if we power up the M-Manectric, then we can power up our other attackers that way as well. Just wouldn't be good to basically give up those... basically give up the prizes for free because of the weakness. So... the Carbink gets a strong energy attached. Must have been the top deck there. And we see a Maxie's Hidden Ball Trick, which we knew they had in their hand. And they're going to grab a Garchomp. So, well played by my opponent. And they're going to be able to use, I believe the attack is called Diamond Gift, which will get them two energies out of their discard, and they can attach onto one of their Pokemon. Thankfully, we do have that resistance, but they play down a Training Center, which adds plus 30 HP to each of their evolved Pokemon. Actually, it's stage 1 and stage 2, so technically the Carbink will not get it, and none of my Pokemon will get it. And so we are going to have to retreat. We will be able to take a knockout this turn, though, which is pretty important. And we're going to use the Raging Thunder for 120. Put the damage on the Hoopa, I guess. We don't really... Again, if our opponent brings up the Hoopa and attacks it, it's just not that big of a deal. And without Rough Seas in sight, just doesn't seem like it's worth putting the damage anywhere else. Could put it on the Ho-Oh and heal next turn with the Fire Energy. But I just don't see that as being the most viable option. Essentially cuts down the HP on our Ho-Oh. And we really... The 180 plus resistance could be really important in fending off a Bite Off. So now my opponent, unless they play Lysander, which they do, he would not have been able to take a knockout on the Zapdos. And while the Lysander does give my opponent 2 prizes, the nice thing is that my Zapdos has remained undamaged, along with the Ho-Oh also remains undamaged. And we can start powering up the Ho-Oh while doing damage with Zapdos. Now, a Fighting Fairy Belt and a Stadium would allow us to take a knockout here. But unfortunately, we can't Sycamore to try and grab both things. So we are just going to have to sort of chip away at my opponent. And the question is, where do we put the energy? We're just going to take a Grass Energy. And I am trying to be a little wary about my opponent's having the Flare Grunt, but we're actually just going to go for the Lysander on the Shaman, and I think that's the best play because we need prizes. We need that VS Seeker, the Rough Seas, both very important cards to be getting at this point in the game, and might as well take the free prizes while we can. And once that Ho-Oh is powered up, if we can switch out the Stadium on the right turn, we'll be able to not only hopefully heal damage, but also take a knockout. We do see a Fighting Fairy Belt on the Garchomp, although if we need to, we have the Zoroark in the discard pile we can grab with VS Seeker. So if we can time this right, it could be really good for us here. And see what my opponent's about to do here. It's taking a little time to make the decision. Bite Off would do, I believe, 80 damage. So yeah, gonna Lysander up a Shaman and bringing it to 2/2 prizes. Not a great position for us. I'm gonna send up the Zapdos because nothing else could be able to attack this turn. We have a VS Seeker. I'm gonna attach a Lightning and gonna play VS Seeker. N would be a decent option. It's difficult though. I think that because the Hoopa is such an easy knockout, I just want to pick it up, and then if we can AZ next turn, we'll AZ the Shaman. So now I'm deciding where to put the damage. I figure I might as well put it on Shaman because We're just betting that our opponent doesn't have a way to get to their Lysander, but with 5-card hand, now 6 cards, would not be unreasonable for them to get this. And we'll see what they can do here. If not, we're going to be in a good spot, but the VS Seeker grabs the Lysander to bring up the Shaman and take the knockout for the last 2 prizes. So again, we're going to drop down in this series by 1 game, unfortunately, and Zapdos was important there, but the Focus Sash was what made it sort of a difficult, put us in a difficult spot, and I was worried about that Focus Sash being a problem. So we're going to go into this next game. I will go first, obviously. It's going to be important for me to go first because my opponent needs turns to set up, needs 2 turns at least to set up. So we're going to start with the Zapdos, not the ideal attacker again. Not ideal, but a lot better than a M-Manectric, honestly. And we'll be able to power it up slowly, or we could always just use Peck, which would break a Focus Sash or something like that. So we're going to play N. We don't want to put down the Shaman with that kind of a hand. And wow, hand didn't get much better. Maybe the Trainer's Mail can yield something for us. And just a VS Seeker, which is pretty useless, but we'll take it in our hand just so that we don't draw into it. And unfortunately, we're just going to have to pass here. Really, really bad setup for us. I mean, basically the extra turn advantage was negated by that turn. And we did get an energy down, but the Raging Thunder needs 3 energy to attack, and that doesn't seem likely to happen next turn. We do have the N, though, so we will be able to at least refresh our hand. So my opponent plays a Karina. Probably going to grab another Gibble. And not sure what item card they would go for. Could be a lot of things, but I'm definitely going to grab a Gibble. I'm actually going to just grab the Rare Candy Garchomp and just basically tell me, yeah, I have the Candy Garchomp, so you better try and end me, which thankfully we have the end, so we will be able to disrupt our opponent a little bit. They did basically waste their Karina there, and we're happy to play N here and make them draw into something again. Now, unfortunately, the only Pokemon we draw is a M-Manectric EX, but I think we have to bench it just because I'm worried about... I mean, I don't think the Zapdos would be knocked out, but I want to play the Max Luxor. I want to actually start getting something going. We're going to attach to the Zapdos so we can Raging Thunder the following turn, and this turn we just have to Drill Peck for 20. Now, the nice thing is our opponent with the Carbank can't do much damage to us. Could either do, discounting Strong Energy. Diamond Gift only does 20, so that would do nothing with the resistance. And Power Gem does 40, so that would only do 20. So we will be able to tank a little bit, probably. And we see a Evo Soda, and that's going to evolve the Pokemon that the Gibble that they put the energy on. So that means we will not get attacked, or at least knocked out this turn. They could Sand Tomb us so we don't retreat out of the Zapdos, but we don't really want to retreat out of the Zapdos anyway at this point. And questioning, do I play the Trainer's Mail? I'm just going to go for it. And the only really useful thing we see there is the M-Manectric Spirit Link. We're going to be able to get whatever supporter we want with that Battle Compressor, so I think that just grab the Spirit Link. The Mega M-Manectric can still be important to get myself a first or a second so set up. So even though it's easy prizes for my opponent, it's still could be invaluable. We're gonna get the Sycamore that we need to play. Grab a Lysander makes sense too. Could definitely grab another energy and put an energy in the discard. We're gonna grab that Water Energy. Yeah, there's no energy in the discard right now, so water seems like a good option. We're going to probably end up having to... We might end up having to Turbo Bolt at some point. We're going to play the Sycamore because my opponent didn't really do much on their turn. And we draw into a bunch of things. We could definitely grab a Ho-Oh here, which would be good, and then, or maybe a Shaman. I think we're going to grab a Ho-Oh and a Shaman. And then we can set up and hopefully get that Raging Thunder knockout. Actually looking at the M-Manectric, but yeah, I mean, we could grab a M-Manectric and a Shaman. That would work too. I think that it gives the free retreat option if we get knocked out, and also just makes it harder for my opponent to take a knockout on the M-Manectric. It's still going to be possible, but it's going to be harder. And this way also, we can actually Turbo Bolt this turn if we need to do that, because we have that Mega Turbo. So worst case scenario, if we don't find a way to attack with Zapdos, we can Turbo Bolt. And we don't get a whole lot out of there, but we do get an energy, and so we can do the Raging Thunder. And we're going to put that onto the M-Manectric because we have the Rough Seas in hand. We're going to be able to heal most of that damage off on our next turn unless we get knocked out. Anyway. Get a Shaman off of the prize. Just good to get that back in the deck. Although the Shamans were obviously a liability last game, so definitely keep an eye on how many we bench. And my opponent just brings up the Gibble and passes. So that's great news for us. We're going to play the VS Seeker. I'm going to grab a Lysander, and that's just because we want to get the only thing out there that's got energy. We're not so worried about if they Rare Candy into a Garchomp next turn. We'd rather just take a knockout here. We can play the Trainer's Mail. We see a VS Seeker, that'll be helpful for next turn in case we need to Lysander or Gibble again, or Lysander something like a Shaman. So we're going to attach the Shaman just so that we can retreat later if need be, or Sky Return. And we're going to Raging Thunder, putting the damage back on that Manectric. And the Manectric's now at 50 damage, but we'll be able to heal off 30 of that next turn, as long as the Stadium stays in play. My opponent, I'm going to play a VS Seeker for Karina. So they might be trying to get out another Garchomp this turn, which we can't knock out at the moment. They probably have the Rare Candy in hand based on that Karina there. Grab use Professor's Letter, grab 2 Fighting Energy. And 1 goes on to the Gibble. We see a Rare Candy into the Garchomp. And hopefully, yep, just going to go for the Turbo Assault. So all we need here is to get a Fighting Fairy Belt, and we'll be able to take the knockout for the win. We draw a Manectric. We're going to definitely use that Rough Seas, which is great. It also heals that Zapdos. And we're going to play down our hand as much as we can, try and get ourselves that win right here. I think we want to just take the win if we can. Just because my opponent has no board right now, I think the best thing we can do is just go all out and hope that we can get the win right here. And with 19 cards left in the deck, it's not unreasonable we find it. We're going to use the Trainer's Mail. And there's the Fighting Fairy Belt. We did have the opportunity to Sycamore, though, if we needed to dig it even deeper. And looks like, I think that, yeah, that should be the game. So just waiting to see if my opponent's going to tell me whether or not they want to go first. But I'm assuming they do. We're going to take the knockout, and once again, we're digging out of that hole. It's 1-1 in the series, and we'll see if we can pull off another come from behind victory, as seems to be the theme in this tournament for us. My opponent does say he wants to go first, which makes sense. And we're going to go into game 3. So, seems like a pretty standard list of Garchomp for me. And I'm feeling okay at this point. The Garchomp is scary just because if we put out too many prizes, then, man, they can just take them easily. Just like this right here, we start with the Manectric, and normally we want to start with the Manectric, but I don't know. It's not great in this. The good thing is, though, about starting Manectric and not starting Ho-Oh is at least we can probably max Elixir to it. And my opponent starts Regirock EX, which I wasn't actually expecting to. I mean, I guess I just am surprised to see it just coming out on this third game. But the fact that they're starting it is a big deal. That means, it's got that heavy 3 retreat cost. The attack doesn't do a whole lot of damage. It would be able to knock out a Manectric, but it's really just there for its ability, which adds 10 damage to all attacks of fighting Pokemon. So they commit an energy to it and don't play any supporter, and that to me means they don't have anything. If they had anything that they could play, they would have played it there for sure. So attaching the energy, putting the Fighting Fairy Belt, it does have 220 HP now. Will be a little bit tougher to knock out, but it was already going to be a 2-hit knockout, so we don't mind that too much. With this Battle Compressor, we're going to grab an N, a Lysander, and maybe an Energy. We already have it. So I'm thinking here that I want a Sycamore, and the main reason is I don't have any other way of drawing cards besides N, and I definitely don't want to end my opponent. So we're going to go for the Sycamore, even though it does mean getting rid of 2 VS Seeker, which is rough, and the Mega Manectric. But I'm going to put the Lightning as the 3rd card, and that's just because if we have the opportunity, we might end up using a Mega Turbo to put that on, or it will obviously be useful for the Ho-Oh. And I'm just trying to figure out how deep do I go with this. I'm just going to start benching a bunch of stuff. I want to make sure that if there's anything I can do to get myself way ahead of my opponent, I will. And wow, okay, so we see I get a max Elixir for Lightning, and we whiffed the max Elixir. If we could have gotten the water there, that would have been huge. We could have switched into the Ho-Oh and actually gotten off an attack for 130, which would have been huge, basically putting my opponent at a 1-turn clock. But even still, my opponent's not in a good position whatsoever. And we see the other fighting energy go down, and just a pass. So we don't even get attacked. Might as well put down the Rough Seas because I'm going to switch into the Ho-Oh, and we're going to Sycamore, hoping to hit that water energy. It'd be a huge deal if I hit it. The other option would be to attach the energy and then hope that I can use the Smeargle somehow, but we draw into the water energy. We get that Fighting Fairy Belt. We're going to throw that down there. We're going to play the other Trainer's Mail, grab a Hex Maniac, just kind of thinning the deck out. We already have the VS Seeker in hand, so if we need it for some reason, we will. And we're going to Elemental Feather, doing 140 with that Fighting Fairy Belt. My opponent now at a 1-turn clock. What will they do? They put down a Strong Energy. If he just attacks, it's game over. We see a 0-6, knocking off that Fighting Fairy Belt, but thankfully they're not going to be able to take the knockout on the active. And we see Shaman set up for 2. Town Map. And wow, it reveals some huge prizes. They've got 2 Strong Energies prized. And also that Megaphone, which would be a bit of a pain. So now I know the Megaphone's prized. I feel much more comfortable putting down that other Fighting Fairy Belt. We're going to play the Max Elixir, get a Water Energy onto Manectric EX, and I think we're just going to attack, and we could play we could play the Hex. I think might as well play the Hex. That way my opponent can't play another Shaman. And plus then it'll be in the discard in case Carbink comes up. So I think it's good to just play the Hex. I don't need it for any reason, and it might make it hard for my opponent. We're gonna use the Elemental Feather, take the knockout, put 30 on Shaman, and take 2 prizes early. And I don't think my opponent has any way of taking a knockout this turn. We get a Fire and a Grass, and that's nice. We can use the Fire to heal. If my opponent doesn't have anything, attaching the Fighting to the active, if they don't have anything, I think we will be able to seal this game up. They're going to play an N. We'll put us down to 4 cards, but if they don't find a Pokemon, a basic Pokemon, then we will win. We got the Fire back too, which means we can use Purifying Fire. We see a Floatstone. Yes, and my opponent just passes. I do feel bad. I think that they just had bad draws there, and obviously starting the Regirock was bad. But these Stage 2 decks can be a little bit clunky sometimes, and it looks like that was the case here. We're going to use that Elemental Feather, take the knockout on the Shaman, and we're going to advance into round 6 with a 4-1 record. So I think that's going to put us pretty near the top of the standings, and it's pretty exciting. You can see that Zapdos was a big player in this, and so was that resistance on the resistance on the Ho and the Zapdos is just huge. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next time with another round and the final round of the Pokebeach June tournament. Thanks. Bye.